Hi, I'm Mr. Gallardo, or Mr. G if you prefer. I'm a computer science teacher in Ozone Park, New York, and I am going through the BJC program in preparation for the AP Computer Science Principles exam in May. And I am making videos. I'm going to start making videos to help out my students, other teachers that are teaching this course, and the students of those teachers that are teaching this course if they're struggling through SNAP. So hopefully I'll be able to help you guys out or help you understand or think through some of these problems a little bit better, because I know how frustrating and just aggravating it can get if you get stuck and you don't have anyone to help you. So I would suggest you try out all the labs by yourself and then come see these videos and see if you were thinking about it a little differently or see how I thought about it. Because sometimes we're going to have different ways of thinking or different ways at arriving at the same answer or coming up with the same solution, but just in slightly different ways. So that's kind of cool. But we're going to start with Unit 2, Lab 2, Script Variables, Teacher's Choice. And without further ado, let's begin. So we're going to go over here to Unit 2, Lab 2, Script Variables. Now, the neat thing about script variables is that we've worked with variables before. So it's not completely new, except that script variables are a little different because they're temporary. They kind of disappear or stop existing once the script is done running. And it says it over here on the side. A script variable exists only while the script is running. If you watch the video, it shows you how you can create a script variable. But let's do it ourselves. Over here in your palette, you can go click on variables and go to script variables. Actually, I don't even think it's called the palette. It's the what's this called? The command area or something, or the block area. Anyways, we bring the script variables block over and we can name our variable by clicking on the A that is already there. So for example, if we want to create a counter variable, script variable, this counter will only exist while the script is running. So for example, when I click the green flag, there will be a variable called counter that will exist until the end of the script. And the script ends almost instantly, so that counter kind of disappears from memory and cannot be used by any other script. Now, this is different than a global variable or a variable that could be used by all other scripts, because those we create by clicking make a variable, and I'm going to name it the same thing, but just to show this, but I really shouldn't if I was actually going to make this. But this counter can be used by any script and any other script. If I start creating a couple of scripts over here, these scripts can start changing this counter. So it can get a little confusing, and actually this is one of the drawbacks to using these global variables, is that any script can modify it, and sometimes you might not know which script is modifying which variable. Whereas with the script variable, this is just a temporary variable that a computer can access really quickly, and it disappears once it's done. So it's used for, like, it serves its purpose and then it disappears in a way. Okay, so this shows you how to go about creating a script variable and how to go about naming the input, or the variable actually that you want to use. And how to set the variable, how to set the value of the variable, which you use the same block or the same command block that you would for a global variable. So you set counter to 0, for example, in this picture. Okay. So anyways, this script over here draws a polygon with a random number of sides. Very similar to something we might have worked on before in one of our previous labs. Okay, so this script variable sides is only going to exist when the green flag is clicked, and then until the end of the script is reached. So it's going to pick, if we read through it from line to line to line, it's going to pick a random number of sides from 3 to 10. It's going to clear whatever's on the screen and then pen down, and then it's going to start drawing, and it's going to repeat this for the number of sides that were picked. It's going to move, it's going to turn, and then it's going to turn the number of degrees, 360 divided by the number of sides, which if you worked on one of the previous labs, you should have came up with that as a general solution to creating a polygon of X number of sides or any number of sides. So let's see. Let's create the script. I'm going to pull it over here to the side. And I'm going to pull this one to the side. And let's see, we're going to create a variable called sides. Then we're going to set sides equal to pick random. Let me move this over just a little bit. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of the global variable counter. And we're going to set sides to a random number from 3 to 10. Then we're going to clear, pen down, and I'm just making the same thing that's over here on the side. Clear, pen down, and I'm going to repeat. I'm going to bring over a repeat block, sides times. So I'm going to drag the variable from the script variable block, command block, or creator, I guess you could say. And I'm going to then move 50 steps to make sure it says 50. And then I'm going to turn to the right 360 divided by sides degrees. So what we can do to try to figure out how this works is, let's start with the random number 3. I mean, it's not random because I'm picking it on purpose. But if we start with 3 sides, I know that I'm going to repeat this 3 times. I'm going to move 50 steps, and then I'm going to turn 360 divided by 3 degrees, which is 120 degrees. So this should create a triangle if the random number that's picked is 3. If the random number that's picked is 4, then it's going to repeat this 4 times, and it's going to turn 360 divided by 4, which is 90 degrees. So it's going to make a square, and so on. So this should work, and it should create a random, I guess, polygon every single time the flag is clicked. So sometimes it'll create a triangle, sometimes it's going to be a heptagon, septagon, whatever gon. And it's just going to, it looks like it's working correctly up until a 10-sided, it could get a 10-sided polygon. Okay, so the script uses the value of sides twice, once in the repeat block to say how many times the move and turn combination should be done, and once in the computing the angle to turn. Okay, why does it make sense to start the range of possible random numbers at 3? So I guess another question would be, well, why couldn't we just choose 2 over here? And if you think about it, it wouldn't make any sense to have a 2-sided polygon. You couldn't even draw that. So it makes sense to start at 3 so that the least number of sides you could have in a polygon is 3 for a triangle. Okay? Check for understanding. Where did the formula 360 divided by sides come from? And that came from a previous lab where we determined a general formula for creating a polygon when given a certain number of sides, and that is how we figured out the formula. And if you total up all of the angles inside of a polygon, it should equal 360 degrees. So that is exactly where the formula came from. Now here's a challenge. Modify the script so that it also picks a size randomly from 30 through 60 using only multiples of 10. Now that's a little tough, because there is one way I can think about it right now, but I think I can think of a better way in a few seconds if I just think through this. And actually I'm going to pull up my drawing board for this problem. All right, so the way I think about this is that we want to pick a number from 30 through 60 that is only a multiple of 10. So that means 30, 40, 50, or 60. Now, there's one way I can think of right now that is probably not the most efficient way to do this. We could pick a random number from 30 through 60, and if it's not a multiple of 10, then we could just keep picking. Pick again and keep picking over and over and over again. It's not going to be very efficient, but that's the way I think about it right now. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to pick a random number. If it's not a multiple of 10, pick again. Otherwise, if it is a multiple of 10, that is the side length that we want to use. That value equals the side length. I think that's what they mentioned in the lab. Okay, now this is not efficient because the first time it picks, it might pick 32. So now it's got to pick again, 33 or 42 or 58. And until it picks either 30, 40, 50, or 60, it's going to be going on for a little while. It could take a while. I mean, as for a computer, this is actually pretty quick. But in terms of efficiency, it's really not efficient at all. So another way I can think of now is, why don't we pick a number from 3 to 6 and then just multiply it by 10. All right, so if we pick a number from 3 through 6 and then multiply that result by 10. So pick a number. We're going to pick a random number and then multiply it by 10. And that will always give us a multiple of 10. From 30 through 60, and that'll be great, actually. So that's what I'm thinking might be a much better solution to this than picking random numbers over and over and over again. Okay, so it says here that there are 2 ways to create a script variable. You could use another script variables block, and you have 2 script variable blocks on top of each other, or you could extend the one block using the right arrow. To the right of the variable name is a little arrow. You could, if you watch the video, you can click on that little arrow and create another variable and just have it all in one command block, which I think is a much better idea, a much better way to do this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create this challenge over here, and I'm going to pick a script variable, and I'm going to name it sides, if I can spell correctly, sides. And I'm going to create another one that is the size. Ooh, it's going to be tricky to talk about these. Sides and size. Okay. So, like I said before, we're going to pick a random number from, and what do we want to pick from? From 30 through 60. So, from 3 through 6, and then we're going to multiply that result by 10. So, this is how I'm thinking about this is how I go about thinking and writing out my code. I'm going to pick a random number and then multiply that answer by 10. And that's going to be my number of, let's see, that's going to be the length, right? The challenge says 30 through 60 so that it picks the size. So that's going to be my size. So I'm going to set size to this value. Okay? And my number of sides is already picked. Actually, it was the same thing as the one up here. So actually, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to put this right over here. So now I'm going to move the size steps. So this will create a, let me make this a little larger so you guys can see a little bit better. This will create a randomly sized polygon. Or it should. Actually, it looks like it is. So here we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, an octagon. I'm going to keep going until, there created a few octagons of different sizes. There's a small triangle, a square, octagon. And keep in mind, it's always going to be either 30, 40, 50, or 60. And I'm creating all these polygons of different sizes, even though it's not an infinite number of sizes. It's a little limited, but it looks like it seems to be working. It just drew 2 triangles, one a little bit smaller than the other, so it looks like it's working. Now, I'm not positive that it's working correctly, but it appears to be working. So what I could do is just to make sure that it is picking a random number from 3 to 6, and then multiplying that by 10, I'm going to pull it off just to double check that all the values, that 60, 50, 40, and 30 do come up. So I'm just going to click it a bunch of times, and it looks like we've seen them all, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Let's find a 60. There we go. Okay, now that's definitely not an efficient way of testing this. Otherwise, I mean, imagine in a huge program if I have to test all my variables, like my what do we call these? All my sizes manually. But just for this small program, I just wanted to make sure that it was working. And I'm pretty sure my random number generator from 3 to 10 is also working correctly. Okay, so it appears to be working the way I intended it to. So let's go back to the instructions. and it says to save this as unit2 lab2 polygons. So you can go ahead and do that if you'd like. Analyzing and debugging. Instead of setting a script variable, this script uses just uses the pick random block in the two places that need the random number. Before you build and run this script, try to figure out what is likely to go wrong. So in this script, I'm just going to read it from top to bottom and try to understand what exactly is going on here. I'm going to think like a computer. It's really helpful to do that so that you can figure out exactly what the computer is going to do before it actually runs. A lot of my students and me sometimes, we like to kind of like, guess and or trial and error. We use trial and error to see if it works. And sometimes it's not going to be a very good way of doing things because we're not going to know where the mistakes are occurring if we don't understand how the computer reads the code. So in this case, I'm just going to go through line by line. When the green flag is clicked, we're going to clear the board. Then we're going to put our pen down, and then we're going to repeat the following two blocks, command blocks, a random number of times from 3 to 10. We're going to move 50 steps, and then we're going to turn 360 divided by another random number from 3 to 10 degrees. So, one way you could do this is to plug and chug. Try to plug in a number just in your head. Let's say I pick a random number 10. I'm going to move 50 steps, and then I'm going to turn 360 degrees divided by, let's say, 3. So that's going to be 120 degrees. So I'm trying to make, it's going to draw, 10 sides, and then turn 120 degrees each time. So that is not going to end up as a triangle, and that's going to create a pretty big problem when we do try to run this code or try to make something that looks like halfway decent. So that's what I predict would happen. We could create this and see what happens, but I would suggest you pause the video and try making it and seeing if it actually makes what we predicted. Although it might not pick 10 and 3 specifically, it probably will come out as a mess, like not the polygon or nice clean polygon that you're used to. Let's continue reading. You will sometimes find it useful to compute some expression using the current value of a variable and then set the variable's value to the result. Here is one way that might look like in Snap. So we would set result to and then do some operation on the result. This operation might be join, if you're joining two words, or it might be multiplication, or many others. Here is one example. We're creating a script variable called result, and we're setting result to 5 initially. Then we're going to say result, so we're going to say 5 for 2 seconds. Then I'm going to set result to result times 2, so now result is going to equal 10. And then I'm going to say result for 2 seconds, and it should say 10 for 2 seconds. So it should say 5 first and then 10. Build it, try it, and figure out why say result for 2 seconds says two different things in the script. Well, let's see if it works exactly how I just said it would. It might not. We're about to find out. Let me get rid of these scripts. It's sad to see them go, but excited to see some new ones over here. So result, and we're going to set result to 5 initially. Then we're going to say result for 2 seconds. Say result for 2 seconds. Then we're going to set it to another value. We're going to set result. Oops. We're going to set result to result times 2. So we have to grab this block, results times 2, and put it in there. Then we are going to say result for 2 seconds again. So I expect this to say 5 and then 10 a few seconds later. And actually, let me clear my board so that, let me get rid of that. Oops, let me show. Oh, I want to say nothing, right? I want to say nothing so that I can get rid of that 5. There we go. So let's make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to touch it. So it should say 5 for 2 seconds and then say 10 for 2 seconds, and it should stop. And that is exactly what happened, what we predicted. Build it, try it, and figure out why say result for 2 seconds says two different things in the script. Change the 5 to a 7 and predict what this script will do. So if we change this 5 to 7, oops, let me bring this say nothing over so that we can get rid of it easily and quickly. But if we change 5 to 7, Then I expect it to say 7 for 2 seconds. And then I expect the result to be changed to 14 because it's 7 times 2. And let's click it and see if that happens. 7 and then 14. And it works the way I predicted. Okay? This script leads to a more useful example of script variable of result, set result to 1, repeat 2 times, set result to result times 5, and then say the result. So let's see what's going on here. We gotta go through this slowly and break it down. So we're setting a script variable called result equal to 1 initially. And then we're going to do the following 2 times. We're going to set result to result, which is 1, times 5. So we did it once. Now we got to do it again. So now result is equal to 5. So then it's going to do result equals result, which is 5, times 5. And then it should say the value of 25. Let's just double check that. So I'm going to get rid of this code. We're going to set result to 1. Set result to 1. Let me pull this over just a little bit so I can see my instructions. I'm going to repeat this twice. And I'm going to set the result to result times 5. So I got to bring over the operator over here. Result times 5. And I can drag over another variable of result. Then we're going to say the result. So I expect when I click this button, when I click on the script, I expect it to say 25 if my way of thinking was correct. And it does. So that's somewhat reassuring. And it should say 25 forever because I never stop saying it. And I don't have it on a timer either. Okay, change the times 5 to times 3 and predict what it will do. I'll let you guys do that. But then change repeat 2 to repeat 3 and see what that does. So I'll let you guys try those two. You should be able to make a prediction as to what will happen. I will say, though, that if I left it at 5, let me just get rid of this. If I left it at 5 and I repeated this 3 times, then it should do 25 times 5. So that should be 125 if I repeat this 3 times, this block, this command. And let me just check it out, 125. Okay, so that's something that they didn't say to do, but I just decided to try just to make sure that my brain works. Now let's go on to letter D. Wait a second. I think I'll stop right there and hold off on going on to letter D until tomorrow or maybe the next day. I want to make sure that I can explain it in a way that everyone can understand. Otherwise, it's just going to be a big mess, and I'm just going to have to redo the video like 20 times. And plus, it's getting really late right now, so I want to go to sleep. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you got anything out of this, or if you want to see more videos like this, or what I can do differently to help you guys out. And thanks for watching. Thanks for spending the time, and I hope it was helpful.